My name is Michael Uyttebroek, and I'm going to do this presentation. We're going to be doing two presentations. I'm doing the main presentation on reincarnation and the evolution of consciousness. And some of this will probably sound strange to you, and that's okay. If you have any questions while I'm doing the presentation, you can, put up your hand and say, oh, or what do you mean by that? So I'll try to explain as we go along if there's some terms. Yeah, I don't mind being interrupted. That's all good. Yeah, perfect. Keeps me on my toes. Okay. Yeah, and you can feel comfortable, and I'll feel more comfortable about that too, because then it's just like we're having a little dialogue amongst ourselves. So this presentation is put on by FIGU-Landesgruppe Canada, and just for anybody who doesn't know who FIGU is, we're a not-for-profit organization. It was founded by this man, Billy Meier, who is based out of Switzerland. We're responsible for Canada, FIGU. FIGU is a German acronym for Free Community of Interests in Border and Spiritual Sciences and Ufological Studies. So that's a real mouthful. If you want to find out more about FIGU, you can just go to this site. This is our site. I'll occasionally refer to my notes just because I want to make sure that I get the important details in. Okay, we're going to play with this little device here. So that's it. So it's based on a book called Rebirth, Life, Dying, Death, and Grieving or Sorrow by Billy Meier. And I will just give you a little background on who Billy Meier is so that you know, give you a little context to where I'm getting this information from. So Billy Meier, and we could do a whole presentation on Billy Meier, which is not the purpose here. It's just to give you a background on the author. He's been having ongoing contacts with extraterrestrials ever since he was 5 years old. And back in the mid-70s, he had the opportunity to take about close to 1,500 posed photographs of spaceships. They gave him metal samples for the purpose of scientific analysis on 2 occasions. He also had the opportunity to make sound recordings of their ships, film footage and video footage. He's had, well over, I don't even know the number anymore, but well over 1,000 contacts, probably closer to 2,000 contacts, both face-to-face as well as telepathic, with human beings that look like me or you, physical human beings, just coming from somewhere else. Anyway, I think that's all I'm going to say about the case. But he's also written a lot of books on a huge variety of topics, including, of course, death and dying, but meditation. He's written a couple of books. There's well over 6,000 pages of contact notes. There's prophecies and forecasts. There's the might of thought, the psyche, the law of love, goblet of the truth. I mean, it's just, and he doesn't stop writing. He's continuously writing. Unfortunately, it's all in German. And very little of it has been translated into English. And what has been, we do have up there at the table, so you may want to check that out. There's also a huge amount of information on the site. So he's the guy that I read his book, painstakingly learned German. When I first actually found out about this case, I thought, wow, if this is real, and it seems quite plausible that it's real because of all the scientists that were involved in the actual investigation, maybe I could learn something about reincarnation, for example, because I was curious about reincarnation, and so I proceeded to investigate this case. And this was back in '86 when I found out about the Billy Meier case. Needless to say, I've been working my way through the German, and so that's where this presentation has originated. Okay, next. So that's actually one of his photographs there. So, I mean, it's incredible photographs. You never see anything quite as clear as that. But anyway, so much for that. Okay, spirit form, what is it? Okay, that picture is a little bit distorted, but anyway. So, in order to evolve, the creation, and I'll define that term, creates the spirit form, which evolves through the material consciousness of the human being in order to gather knowledge, information. So that's how the creation evolves, by creating the spirit form, which then needs the physical existence. The creation. What is the creation? Okay, well, it's the source of everything in this universe. It's the source of all the stars. It creates galaxies, atoms, animals, flora. It's the source of absolutely everything in this universe. And it's like the Big Bang. So it starts as a highly concentrated energy and then explodes, expands. We're in an expansion phase right now. It's been expanding for 46 trillion years. It will expand to 155.5 trillion years, and then it will begin its contraction for the same amount of time, and then rest. So that's the process of the creation. But while it's expanding, up to the 155.5 trillion years, it's creating all of this stuff. I want to give a definition of what the creation is based on another book that Billy's written, called, it's from a book called The Decalogue. And the definition is, the creation is the being and the non-being of the life. It is the most immense mass of spiritual energy in the universe. It is spirit in purest form and unmeasurable in its wisdom, its knowledge, in its love, and in its harmony and truth. The creation is something spiritually dynamic, a pure spirit intelligence energy, ungraspable for human beings, prevailing over all, and at all times active, creative, standing in unstoppable evolution, all gathered into itself wisdom and love. So the creation, in order to evolve, creates the human spirit. So each one of us has a part of creation within themselves. And as I explained before, through the physical existence, the spirit form gains more knowledge, love, wisdom through the reincarnation process, which we're going to get into detailed explanations about. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so basically, this is this cycle. Creation creates a spirit form, and eventually the spirit form, after countless amount of reincarnations into various physical bodies, and beyond that, eventually works its way back into creation, bringing all that it has gathered into creation, whereby creation evolves to higher levels of itself. Because absolutely everything is in an evolution process. We are all evolving. There is purpose to life. It's not just, we're here for 70, 80, 50, 30 years and that's it. No, there is an actual purpose in life, an order. And this is the actual purpose is the evolution of not only ourselves as human beings, but the evolution of creation to higher forms of itself. We have our senses, 5 material senses, which is what we see, feel, touch, taste, but there are other senses as well. There are 2 other senses, the 6th and 7th sense, and that is a presentation in itself. So I don't want to delve too deeply into that stuff just yet. But we are physical human beings that have to go through this incarnation process. As individuals, we incarnate, but the spirit form reincarnates. And through the process of the incarnation of my personality, I gain some wisdom, I get a little bit more insight into life. I evolve through making mistakes. And that's where we're going to leave it for now. So this is the symbol for the creation. The creation can be called anything, whatever you want to call it. You want to call it universal consciousness, you can call it that. If you want to call it all pure energy, you can call it that. It doesn't matter what you call it. The origin of everything. Whatever the ancient, it doesn't matter. What is important is that it is not a human being standing up in some heaven somewhere judging you. It's not some imaginary replacement for God, it's creation is a neutral energy that's neither male nor female, and it is the universal consciousness. It is source of everything in this universe, and it needs to evolve. Okay. Next. Okay, so how does the spirit form evolve? Okay, in order for the spirit form to evolve, it creates the overall consciousness block, and in turn, the overall consciousness block creates something called a consciousness block. And I'll explain all of these terms and how they work together. Consciousness block is made up of the consciousness, the personality, the ego. That's what goes into the human being and to gather values in the material life. Let's see, do I have a little? The I, the ego represents the personality, respectively the material consciousness. It independently makes perceptions, researches, explores things and facts, consciously learns and processes values. Okay. Day 21. Day 21 is when the spirit form and the consciousness block enter the fetus. Not before that. That's exactly when the heart begins to beat, on day 21. So, let's see what happens here. And the realm of the spirit form is in the superior colliculus. And from there, it spreads itself out in a, this is a internet swipes from somewhere, but it's not actually accurate, but it just there to give you an idea that the spirit form spreads itself out throughout the entire body. But it is unaffected by the material realm. So that means that if, for example, I have mental illness, that does not affect the spirit form in any way. If I have an accident and I lose an arm or a leg, the spirit form is not affected because the spirit form is of a fine material energy. So if I was to lose my arm, even though the spirit form is throughout the entire body, it immediately retreats. It's not harmed at all. Yeah.
You were talking about mental illness there.
Yeah.
You're saying the spirit form isn't affected, but
yeah, that's correct.
If they have mental illness, let's say, for example, it causes them to, in the process of like a hallucination, causes them to murder someone.
Mm-hmm.
How does that affect the spirit form in evolution? If it's not affected by the illness or the actions, that's what I'm curious about.
Okay, well, I mean, if you murder someone, first of all, there's going to be an effect on that person's possibility for evolution. So yeah, of the other person. Or if you were to commit suicide, for example, that would also affect your, detrimentally, because that's against natural laws to do something of that nature. Because we all need to evolve, and so to terminate that evolution prior to the time that it needs to be terminated is against natural laws, and therefore is an impedance to that person's or persons' evolution. Multiple people's evolution. Yeah, so it does affect in that way. So unfortunately, but see, we're free human beings, and we have free will, so we can do whatever we want to do, meaning that we could decide to go against natural laws, but there are always cause and effect consequences for our actions, and therefore, there's a price to pay for everything. But the intent is that we live according to natural laws so that we can evolve to the highest level of perfection as quickly as possible. That would be the goal.
I mean, let's say, once again, in case somebody murders somebody, does that affect their evolution in the next life? Or does it make them, for example, regress to a less advanced society, for example, when they come back?
Does it make it what? Sorry? The last part?
Let's say somebody who's born here in Canada.
Yeah.
And then, that's...
Oh, I see what you're saying. No. No, I mean, obviously, we're okay. I'll just address that really quickly because I got a lot to cover. But basically, in your next lifetime, you're not impeded by your actions from the previous lifetime. In other words, this theory of karma, where you are now in your next lifetime, you're going to be disadvantaged because of your actions in the previous lifetime. No, but there's still stuff that needs to be worked out that that hasn't been resolved. That's against that needs to be worked on. But it doesn't mean that you come in punished as a lower class citizen in your next lifetime, poor and crippled because you murdered someone or something like that. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay. 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 So this is what I was saying, that we gather information through the physical life, and then so evolutive values, those which correspond to truth and reality, are transferred over in an impulse-based form from thoughts and feelings to the spiritual consciousness. So this is a little bit complicated. This is the complicated picture coming up here. But basically through our, and this is taken from the book, and I thought I'd throw it in just because it gives you an idea that there is an actual transfer of information from the material consciousness to the spiritual consciousness, and it follows a particular path. But we're going to have a booklet and available with this diagram. But also, if you go on YouTube, you can see that I have a presentation on reincarnation, and it has this. So you can, and there's a PDF, so you can further study it. But there's an actual process from the material consciousness and the thoughts and feelings, and it goes through the material subconsciousness, the material central consciousness, to the spiritual side, and impulses are neutral, positive impulses are sent over, and vice versa. Okay, so let's move on here. Okay, so functions of the overall consciousness block. Okay, so when the human being dies, so we saw that on day 21, the spirit form and the consciousness block go into the human being. Well, when the brain ceases to function is the time when the person dies, not before that. So a person may appear like they're dead, but they're not if their brain is still working. So it's only when the brain actually stops. The heart could have stopped, but the brain's still working. that person's not dead yet. Or, you know, there are people that have gotten, you know, to the point where it appears like it's, they've, you know, they're dead because our technology cannot register any kind of activity, but it doesn't mean that they're dead. Yeah. It's only when the brain actually ceases, that's when the spirit form and the consciousness block simultaneously leave and go to the beyond, which is not exactly sure where it is, but it has to do with this planet Earth. And it's a fine material realm, and so the consciousness block goes to the overall consciousness block. And the overall consciousness block now has a job to do. What's its job? It dissolves the I or ego, and it processes the consciousness personality, or the personality. So stuff that hasn't been worked out during the life is processed at this point. So through our life, we're working on stuff, but there's, you know, we may have issues. Guaranteed we have issues. And those issues, all that, whatever's outstanding gets processed. Yes, you had a question?
Yeah, Michael, after how many hours the spirit leaves the body after death? It's like hours?
No. When you die, that's when it leaves. Because the moment it leaves is the moment that you're dead. You can't die before it leaves.
Yeah, sure, but there's a time, like sometimes it's like minutes, or sometimes it's after 3 days or something, because there were people buried alive.
They weren't dead. That's the problem. Their spirit form had not left. Yeah, okay. Okay, it's a flash. When the spirit form leaves, it's a flash. It's like that, and there's no weight, by the way. You know, there's that weird theory that you lose 15 grams or whatever it is. That's hocus pocus. Okay. Okay. Okay, so it processes. Then the evolutive values are transferred over to the spirit form. And then the consciousness or personality is stored. We'll get into storage banks and how they work. And then that personality consciousness is dissolved, completely dissolved, and it makes room for, it's changed into a neutral form, and that enables the overall consciousness block to create a new consciousness block with a new personality and a new consciousness. Okay, with a new ego. And there's a reason for that, and I've got a list of reasons here. Having a completely new personality guarantees love, freedom, knowledge, wisdom-based progress, because through the new personality, there are new ideas, views, opinions, perceptions, cognitions. You know, for this reason, a personality is never repeated and therefore can only incarnate. I think I got that. Guarantees progress. Yeah, see? So only incarnates, whereas the spirit form reincarnates. So that makes sense, right?
So what is the difference between reincarnates and what is the difference?
Between what?
The previous slide.
Okay, the previous slide.
Incarnates.
Yeah, so incarnates means that you come in one time only. So the personality, you now, when you die, you're who you are right now, that personality will never come back. Okay, but it is stored. It's not all lost, and we'll get into that.
The spirit form within.
Yeah, we'll get into it. Yeah, but yeah, exactly. So, but the personality incarnates, whereas the spirit form, which is the part which is what reincarnates. That is the enlivening factor in each human being. That's the thing that creation has created in order for it to evolve, for itself to evolve. So the creation creates the spirit form, and then the spirit form needs to come into into a physical body along with the consciousness block. And through our experiences, our day-to-day experiences, our making mistakes, we gather information, knowledge, and we get a little wiser. And that which is of pure wisdom, love, and knowledge gets transferred over to the spirit form, whereby the spirit form gains knowledge and becomes more powerful. It increases its strength. And then eventually enters into creation and brings that all to creation, whereby creation evolves. See, so the consciousness block incarnates. The spirit form reincarnates, because it's the same spirit form in each lifetime.
And is there an X number? Is it how many times?
Yeah, and I'll get into all of that stuff. Okay. Okay, so here we are. So again on day 21, the spirit form and the new consciousness block go into the fetus. But this time, you're starting at a new, you're not starting from scratch. In a way, you're starting from scratch because you have to learn to speak and you have to learn to walk and all that stuff. But your consciousness level, the consciousness level of the new personality is starting where the old one left off. Okay.
So, if I use karma as the storage base.
Karma, no. Karma, no. Karma, first of all, karma is a belief. Karma is a belief that that you are burdened by some past event.
Will the storage banks be the past?
Yeah, but you're not burdened by the past. You're not burdened. You can, if you want to use the term karma, there's cause and effect. You do something in this lifetime, and because of your actions, there's going to be an effect. That you can, but it's really, karma is not the right word, but it's cause and effect. That's a natural law.
So burden is sort of a big word. Okay, but
Yeah.
so the storage and the burden are two separate ideas.
Yeah, that's, yeah, because.
Can you give us an example of a negative effect? Like how
Okay, I get really angry and I get really stressed out about everything in my life, and before you know it, I got ulcers. That's cause and effect. The way I think affects my body or makes me healthy if I have a healthy outlook in life. So that's cause and effect. If I go out and not look where I'm going and I get hit by a car, that's cause and effect, because I haven't been paying attention to what's going on around me.
But in the context of
From life to life. I think.
From life to life?
life to life, what will be
Okay.
the effect of it?
Okay, yeah, we'll go into how it works. Okay, so, okay, here. Okay, let's just see here. The overall consciousness block programs or inputs into the memory of the subconsciousness, which is a factor of the consciousness block, the essence of all evolutive values that were gathered throughout all previous incarnations. These evolutive values are comprised of consciousness forms which are all at various levels of development. Examples of consciousness forms can be love, respect, patience, honesty. The highest level of each of these consciousness forms is considered to be its essence. These essences are inputted into the subconsciousness and are representative of the overall level of consciousness evolution. So these are consciousness forms, for example. These are things that get developed through our life. Okay, these are various themes that are have evolutive value. Okay, and so they're all developed at various levels. Some of them more developed, some of them less developed. At the highest level of each one of these consciousness forms is what gets stored into the the highest level is considered the essence of each one of these consciousness forms. And that essence is what is stored into the material subconsciousness. And that is what is inputted into the material subconsciousness. So through meditation, you could get some of these impulses coming from the material subconsciousness, from all of the. So there's some kind of inspiration that happens from this stuff that has been worked on over countless lifetimes. Okay, so there's a connection there. So because everything is evolving, everything needs to go to higher levels of evolution, including all the various consciousness forms. Yep.
Yeah, is the reincarnation comes in the infinite, in the same lifetime, like same physical form?
No, what?
Well, because you mentioned before that the brain has to consider that, and then like the new subconscious, conscious come back. But what I mean is because the human being has this ability to evolve by itself. So I'm just questioning you if he evolved because of he getting diluted the new energy from whatever nature, whatever source. So in the same lifetime, does this person get reincarnation?
Oh yeah. No. In the same lifetime, each one of us is constantly evolving. We're evolving in this lifetime, but we're not reincarnating. It's just, that doesn't make any sense because I incarnate. My personality is incarnating in this lifetime, and my spirit form is coming in. This.
You just mentioned about subconscious characters or characteristics.
Yeah.
How about resurrection yourself, and then the previous character has gone, flashed away, and then you become evolving, become a brand new person, and then this is a different person now we're talking about. Yeah, so each incarnation is a new person with and then the stuff that's inputted into the material subconsciousness. Different. As a human being, each incarnation is going to be in a human being.
Better and better and better? Always better? Not always.
Always higher.
Well, see what happens is, okay, what happens is that the wisdom, the love, and the knowledge that has been gathered can be suppressed by the next personality. That can happen too. But the spirit form can never stagnate. It's always evolving. Maybe more slowly. It never goes backwards. It can slow down, or it can really progress if the personality is really striving to gather more information and knowledge and put it to practical application through our relationships and so on. Okay, let me just go on with this here. Okay, so we have the memory that's in the material subconsciousness, but so the essences, what we were talking about, these essences that are, they get stored in the overall, in the storage banks for the overall consciousness block. And so these essences are what are inputted into the material subconsciousness of the next consciousness block. I hope that doesn't get too complicated. And then, but there's also planetary storage banks, and that's a separate thing. It's a different type of storage bank. And the planetary storage banks is, they're also made up of fine energy, thoughts, emotions, feelings, each word that was ever spoken or thought, habits, ideas, everything that a person is, all quirks and vices, wishes, lusts, interests, abilities, power unfolding abilities, the accent, the nuances of the voice, the entire memory, knowledge, love, harmony, joy, wisdom, etc. These are all deposited in the storage banks as impulses. There's a unique frequency of stored impulses generated by the thoughts and feelings. All that which is in the storage banks can be made one's own if the corresponding frequencies are produced. Okay.
Is it almost sort of like a computer?
Yeah, it's kind of like a,
software, like a hardware?
yeah, kind of like a computer. So everything is stored in these planetary storage banks. Catherine is going to be doing a presentation, mainly focusing on the effects, the storage banks and how they can be accessed. Yeah.
Is it truly planetary storage banks? You know how there's a lot of people out there that could be mediums and channelers and all of those things. I'm not necessarily talking about people that are being fraudulent and trying to get money and shit. But like the real people that actually know how to access. Is that where they're gathering information about other people?
Yeah.
Okay.
That would possibly be a source for gathering, if you have that talent or ability to adjust somehow. I don't know how to do it myself, so I can't really say how it's done.
I'm just thinking about like a
Yeah.
for example, he was able to call people with
Information from
information from the past, and
Yeah.
that's why I was wondering if where
Yeah,
they call these past records.
yeah, there's different names for it. Yeah.
That was, by the way, excellent encapsulation. Glad you said that.
Talents. So a question comes up sometimes where, is that how come I have this child suddenly has this ability to play piano marvelously at 5 years old or something, and they say, well, where's that coming from? And is that coming from the storage bank, somehow accessing the information? And that is one possibility. And another possibility, which I was just reading, it's not from the book, but it's from Meier material. It's saying that it can be also genetic information that's been passed down. And it can be 10 to 20 generations back, this information. Yeah, so it...
So this one can be measured or justified by DNA? Like you mentioned about is the storage bank coming from 5 generations?
No, that's not what I said. What I said was that there is genetic information that can, I was talking about someone that has a particular talent, for example, that where does that talent come from? And it can either come through genetic information, stemming back through generations, or it can come from the storage banks as impulses from the storage banks. So let's just look at this thing for a second here. So thoughts, emotions, feelings, habits, ideas, abilities, words, it's all stored in the storage bank. So everything that we're doing right here, right now, today, is being stored. Saved. Saved. Yeah, the storage banks are existing now. They existed before you were born. They exist after you die. The storage banks are...
The collective human.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. Exactly.
The planetary
Yeah, but let's stick with the planetary storage banks for right now, because it.
On planet, not planet itself. It's like a library with books. Each person has their book with their history.
Yeah.
All stacked together.
Yeah, and every human is stored there. Yeah. Evolution, conscious action.
So sorry, Isaac, you have a question?
Can it ever be erased? Or?
No, not that I know of. It can't be. No, no. And then, as Marcel mentioned, that there's a planetary storage bank, and then there's also a solar. Our solar system, I think, has a storage bank, and then there's a galactic storage bank, and then there's the creational storage bank, and I think there's 7 levels of storage banks. I don't know the names of them.
So a person with a higher consciousness, higher level of consciousness, could tap into the storage bank easier than somebody who has a lower.
Yeah, but it can happen subconsciously as well, so that you don't even realize that you're accessing stuff from the storage banks. But someone who is more evolved could develop that ability to access the storage banks.
Could be trained to do that.
That's correct. Yeah, through meditation. So let's just go through this here. So, as we stated, there's a unique frequency, and it's possible okay, so there's a unique frequency of stored impulses generated by thoughts and feelings. All that which is in the storage banks can be made one's own if the corresponding frequencies are produced. Therefore, other egos and consciousness forms can be brought to use if one is able to create the same frequencies. This means that abilities of former personalities can be brought to use in a conscious or unconscious form. This connection is also possible with other egos not connected to the same line of previous egos. There is either a conscious or an unconscious utilization of these storage banks via the material consciousness. Okay. There was another point that I wanted to bring up, which is, I guess I'd have to backtrack a little bit, but when the new personality comes into the human being, right? When the fetus on day 21 and there's a new personality, when there's a new person, sometimes it happens. It's happening actually more and more so right now. And it has to do with overpopulation, that the consciousness block has not been fully programmed because it comes in prematurely. The spirit form and the consciousness block come in prematurely due to overpopulation. And because of that, the overall consciousness block has not had the chance to fully program the consciousness block or the new personality. Yeah.
Okay, what's the cause of the overpopulation?
Breeding.
That's it?
Breeding humans.
Pretty much.
So it's heterosexuality, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, but it has to do with, see, there's a lot of different influences that bring about our desire to, have more and more kids. Part of it is religious, that we've been encouraged to have large families. Part of it has to do with cultural reasons, such as I need more kids to help me to manage my farm, to survive, to secure my future. When I get older, I'll have these kids to take care of me. There's all kinds of reasons why people choose to have lots of kids.
But it's human intention, is what you're saying?
Yeah, or lack of thinking.
No, but it's human desire to have children.
Yeah.
The choice.
It's a program, it's a choice, and it's a free choice. But the problem is that there's a whole other presentation about overpopulation.
Well, you brought it up.
I know, it's true. And but anyway, we've got huge numbers, and we're at over 8.5 billion people right now. Yeah.
Only 3 kids develop a family.
Okay, let's, let's just keep moving with this here, so just for a second here. Okay, so normally, if someone lives 100 years, then it's 152 years in the beyond, where the overall consciousness block has the time to process the personality, the previous personality, and create a new one. But because of overpopulation, now it could be 10, 30, 40 years, and then the person is back. And so that leads to issues such as instability of the personality, softness. The males are too soft, or the people are too soft, prone to addiction, need more support from their parents. The masculinity, I was just reading, is not fully pronounced. It can be, yes. Cycles, and apparently the cycles will never, ever come back to normal. And this has been activated due to the overpopulation. So the cycles that would normally be, let's say if we live to 50 years, then we'd be 72 years on the other side, for example. So that's no longer, and can no longer happen in that normal way. So that leads to problems. Okay. According to Billy, he said that this planet should have about 528 or 29 million people on this planet, up to 1 billion, which would enable sustainability, that there would be enough room for the flora, the fauna, and all of nature to flourish, as well as the human being. But right now, we're at over 8.5 billion people. And it's much higher than what the UN actually says, because they don't have the ability to take an accurate census. And the reason why I'm saying that, that it is higher and that I have the voice of authority has to do with, of course, if you missed the very beginning, but there was the person who wrote this book, Billy Meier, has had ongoing contacts with extraterrestrials, and you can check it out yourself. The site, it's ca.figu.org, and they have this highly advanced technology where they're able to what's the it's a type of scan. I forgot the name, but anyway, they have an ability to take a snapshot. Thank you. She's reading my mind here. Take a snapshot of what's actually, it's a biogram. That's what it's called, a biogram of the entire planet, and at one instant can actually determine the exact population at that moment. And so the last time it was done was a couple of years back, and it was already at over 8.3 billion. Okay, so anyway, let's just move on with this, stay on topic here. Okay, and the other point of interest, which you might find, is this planet here right now has 129 billion spirit forms that have been activated and have had at least one incarnation on this planet.
Wow.
And they're waiting in line, patiently. Huh?
From where are coming?
I explained that already. The creation creates spirit forms.
And the planet blow up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But is it, one question, do you have any data to know if it's more positive, benign, or negative? Is it more positive or more negative? When
What?
you count that many spirits,
Uh-huh.
do they know if most of the spirits are good, benign, or they are...
There's no good or bad spirit. First of all, spirit is neutral 100%. what is good and what is bad is our thinking. When we get into polarity thinking, you know, where we're not balanced.
When you're incarnated.
A personality, yeah, as a physical form. It has not. The spirit is completely neutral, pure spirit energy.
And when it enters, it turns into...
It doesn't turn into anything. When it enters into the human body, also what enters is a personality. And through our influences, through our parents, through our interactions, then we, you know, and yeah, influenced either in negative or positive ways. And that is where there's a negative or positive.
So the spirit is always...
Neutral. Always neutral, positive. Neutral.
It cannot be neutral. It has to be positive.
It's neutral. It has an equal balance of both negative and positive. It's neutral.
It's in the middle.
Okay. Okay. So now let's look at this. So in physical bodies, we go from 40 to 60 million years of physical incarnations in bodies. That's a lot of incarnations in bodies. The spirit form reincarnates in physical bodies for 40 to 60 million years, depending. 18 million years of which are spent in the actual physical bodies.
Wow.
Okay, the rest is on the other side. Yeah, look at that. Overpopulation. And then then we enter into the half physical, half spiritual realm. So for 56 million years, there's no leeway there. It's standard. And then, yeah, but we keep evolving, right? So the spirit form first in physical life, then we go into the half physical, half spiritual planes, and then we enter into the pure spirit planes, and that's almost 3 billion years in the pure spirit levels. And then from there go into creation. And the pure spirit levels...
That is trillion or billion?
Billion. Okay, so the pure spirit levels are made up of 7 levels, the lowest being Arahat Ather Sata level, and then there's 5 other levels, and then the Patali level is the last level of the pure spirit planes, and then from there goes into creation as creation itself. Now, there, that's the distorted picture of the creation. It's supposed to be square, and this is taken from another book of Billy's with the symbols of the spiritual teaching book, and he accessed those from the storage banks, in fact. So there you go. There are, in the book, there's about, I don't know, 600 and something. Out of a possible 56. I got my little black book if you really want to know. Do you really want to know?
We know it's roughly 50.
Okay, anyway, let's leave it for now. Okay, there's a lot of symbols out there. Okay. Okay, so these are some basic points that I thought were interesting. The spirit form is creation-based, learning consciousness or evolution consciousness. So that's the type of evolution the spirit form is. It's a learning consciousness or evolution consciousness. It's not able to think creatively. The spirit form isn't. It is not conscious and has no ego. It actually only becomes conscious the moment that it enters into the universal consciousness or creation. At that moment, it becomes conscious of itself as the universal consciousness. It's a neutral recipient and processor of evolutive impulses, needs to evolve through the consciousness of the human being, and the human consciousness has a conscious consciousness evolution. That's what makes us different from the animals and plants See, there's all different types of evolution. There's let's see, let's play it with this. There's the microevolution, which is, you know, viruses, bacteria. There's the energy evolution, which is sand and stones. And
Impulse are the plants?
Impulse are the plants. Instinct are the animals. Yeah, and then this is us. And then there's this intelligence evolution. That's for mammals that are actually evolving, higher mammals. You know, like dogs and dolphins, and you know, those. They have a special. Huh?
Energy evolution.
That's sand and rocks. Element. Yeah.
Fire,
yeah. I think fluids. Yeah, like gases. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because they're evolving, right? Certain substances become other substances, and so on and so forth, right?
So that's like a periodic table, a different periodic table?
I guess so. Like, I guess I think certain elements become others over time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's how it works. So, yeah.
People who had a near-death experience.
They haven't.
Near-death experience.
Yeah.
There's been so many.
Yeah, yeah.
Do they come back and report some of this stuff?
No. This is not. All this information is not coming from those type of people.
No, but don't.
But first of all, someone who has a near-death experience has not died. Their spirit form has not left their body.
But don't they gain knowledge? Don't they gain more understanding?
I think what they experience is probably what they want to experience. What they've yeah. I'm not really prepared to fully answer that question. Maybe I should be, but you know, but it's not the same thing as death. A near-death experience is not death, first of all.
But it's a glimpse.
No, it's not a glimpse of death, because it's not death. You can't glimpse death, because then you'd be experiencing death. It's not death. Death is when there's no more personality there to see it. Yeah.
So what she's trying to say is that when physically you get knocked down, you end up with a separation. It's like the spirit's ready to leave because the body's...
That's something else. That's something else.
Then when the two glue back together, it's
yeah.
like, oh, I'm a little smarter, I'm a little more...
No, I believe he's saying that when the brain dies, the person's dead.
Exactly, correct.
Oh, we know that.
Yeah.
Well, there's something called clinical death, which isn't quite the same either.
Yeah, okay.
There's brain death, which is real death.
That's real death, exactly. You know, the finer experiences of consciousness can be, obviously that it's possible. It's also possible to, you know, to have consciousness feelers that outside of the body, and actually be able to see in a, you know, your body down below and all of that stuff. But that has nothing to do with death. That's just an effect of consciousness. Okay, let me move on here. The spirit form is not the soul. So these are common misunderstandings. The spirit form is not the soul. The soul is an incorrect term for the psyche. We have a book there for sale on this. It's called The Psyche. It goes into what the psyche is all about. A human being cannot take their personality with them into subsequent incarnations, as has been falsely taught by the Buddhist or Hindu religion. So we cannot, Michael will never be Michael in another lifetime. A human being's spirit form cannot enter into an animal or into a plant in another reincarnation, nor is the reverse possible. Which means that once the spirit form is in a human body, and going through the reincarnation process as a human being in new personalities, new bodies over countless lifetimes, it will never go back into an animal. It stays in the human being lineage. Upon the deceasing of the human body, life does not continue in nirvana, paradise, hell, heaven, Hades, whatever, Hades. There's no possibility of a resurrection or a sentencing on Judgment Day, nor any karma-burdened future life. And these are some of the symbols taken from the book. Oh, just see, that's life, up, dying, death. Look at that, that's the peace symbol. But people think that that's but actually, it's a symbol for death and death life and death existence. So they've got that backwards. Sorrow, rebirth, reincarnation. And that's it. So if you want to study this topic more or other topics associated with this and other things, there's the website, so you can access a lot of information there.